welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. It's been 10 seasons of hand-holding and empowering you, the small business owner. I'm Sunanda Jayasseelan. On the show tonight, we're bringing you the Leaders of Tomorrow Hangout, a series of conversations that we're doing across the country, asking what does India's youth want? On tonight's show, I'm bringing you a very special discussion that we did in Delhi, talking about the fashion and the lifestyle space. What do young entrepreneurs think about becoming entrepreneurs in this space? What are some of the issues that are top of mind? And what do India's biggest experts who are in the fashion and lifestyle space have to say about the biggest opportunities and challenges for a young entrepreneur here? That's what I discussed. Let me first up introduce our panelists. Ayushi Gudwani, founder FS Life. Rina Dhaka, fashion designer. Lakshmi Rana, supermodel, educator, entrepreneur. Professor Dr. CJ Rawandale, Professor and Director, Symbiosis Law College, Noida. Thank you so much to all our students who are here joining us for the Leaders of Tomorrow Hangout series. We are here in Noida talking to students who are all likely going to become lawyers. I think one or two of you want to go on to become entrepreneurs. Let me start first off, and just to set the context for the audience that's also going to be watching this on television. Just very brief introductions. I'm sure everyone knows, our entrepreneurs here on the panel, but just very briefly in 20 seconds, what would you like to tell us about FS Life?
FS Life is actually a house of brands. We are now building 3 brands and potentially we'll add a few more to our portfolio. We work in the space of premium women's wear with the idea to serve the unmet needs for women across the country in lifestyle, retail and fashion. So that's all about FS Life, and the focus for us is a lot more on fits and making real women feel beautiful and confident about themselves.
Amazing. Welcome, Ayushi. Thanks for your time. Lakshmi, you're an entrepreneur and you wear multiple hats, entrepreneur, you're an activist. What would you like to tell us about the work that you do?
Well, I've been in the industry for the last 20 years now, and I'm still actively working as a model. I started my brand Willoughby Talent Camp during the pandemic, because that was something that was a passion project for me, which is giving back to the industry. What we do at Willoughby Talent Camp is it's an image transformation camp, wherein we focus on mental grooming as well as physical grooming for all sections, starting from models to pageant aspirants to anybody who wants to get into the industry or otherwise. But we do not restrict it to only physical grooming. We go on and do mental grooming as well as building confidence and personality development.
Very, very important, mental grooming. And one of the topics we're discussing in this series on the Leaders of Tomorrow Hangout is also mental health. So thank you for having those conversations. Rina, very briefly, you're someone who's been associated with this industry.
Yes, because I'm old and I'm a geriatric or a dinosaur, so my story is very long and lengthy. Yes, but I began exactly as I see you in front of me as a very young girl when I came out in fashion. And I think I hadn't even completed my college. I was straight out of school. In those years, we opted out, we had that option of 10 plus 2. So I did 10th, and instead of the plus 2, I went and enrolled in a fashion school in Delhi, and which was hilarious because when it rained, we got a holiday. They don't.
They don't get one.
Here. So jokes aside, it got me started, and my best work or my most innovative work actually came when I was my youngest. Until date, I'm recognized for categories such as the lycra churidar, which you now get on a cartwheel. At some point was my invention. And I thought it was because I was very young and very crazy and full of ideas and so many things in my head. And that I thought was the best thing, looking back in my life, is to be young and to have an interest, to work hard and play hard. And I feel very fortunate that I was there to be a part of a turning point of fashion in India.
Fantastic.
And I'm one of the cogs in the wheel, but I was there then.
Professor, so over to you now, and you've been teaching for well over 2 decades, so you really know what today's young people want. What are they thinking, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, because we have at least a few here in the audience today, like I was mentioning, who want to go on and perhaps set up, but hopefully, or maybe, the germ of the idea will get sparked after today's conversation and more people will want to turn entrepreneur. But what are India's young people thinking?
Thank you for the question, but I would like to say that I have grown up with the young ones. So sometimes people do ask me that, what's your age? I said, don't ask me because my company is young. So you would see, except my gray hairs, I'm young. So what does it talk about? It talks about ideas. I always say this on every forum, that I learn from them more than they learn from me. Like there is an example which is just sitting next to us is Navya Nanda. She is a learner of law. We don't call them students of law. We all are learners of law. But at the same time, she has continued with a passion, which is a fashion, and which she will take to the entrepreneurial venture, which she calls as cute clay story. She uses a medium and then converts into a product which becomes a jewelry. So entrepreneurship is one section. So as it was just in discussion was asked, law doesn't have, you cannot compartmentalize the education. You have entrepreneurship, you have non-governmental organizations, you can also defend corporate houses, you can defend or become part of firms. So you learn so many things from them.
But on that note, let me very quickly, I understand there's some questions here. Just put up your hands. Let me see where the first question is coming from. Yeah, go ahead. If you can stand, introduce yourself and whom your question is to.
Hello everyone. So I'm Lisa Sankrit, 4th year learner at Symbiosis. So my question is directed to Rina. So I know that you have your own fashion brand. So how do you manage with the waste that is generated? Like, do you upcycle it? Or what is that one thing you follow to maintain that sustainability and eco-fashion?
There's not enough anyone can do when it comes to waste management. And I also tell you, since you're into the topic of waste, if you were to go see, there's a very big market here called Gandhinagar, Sultanpur, and that's where your Ghazipur landfill is. It is a mountains of waste. And in the right now also it must be a horror, and followed by a river of sewage. For many, many years, I have gone on every channel, but that is all to my credit I have done. Because I'm hoping one day somebody will come to me, join up, and let's, that interest becomes a reality, wherein we need to do something definitely about it. One of the reasons is like anything you're wearing, like clothes, when they cut them, on the fabric is cut in a width, like 44 inches, or whatever, by unit of measurement. So the corners are left to waste. So mostly Raddi wala will take, or they take it, the jhadu wala will take, or what we, as because I'm a smaller unit, I'm not a big mega factory anymore, we used to be, we decided to downsize. And so in a smaller unit, yes, we can make patchwork bags, give it to a charity or an NGO. That is more or less what we do. Or we use it in our own methods of inseaming. A lot of creative work actually with salvages is being done by Indian younger fashion designers or even the old guard. And fashion industry is more or less conscious of it. They will work towards it. I also work with Liva. Liva has started doing fabrics in rayon. In fact, while I was sitting, I was thinking satin is very in. Looking at your blouse, I said, Chitta, how do I make it sustainable? So then I remember there's a Bemberg yarn, satin, which uses less water, and they also dissolve in the earth naturally, the fiber, the filaments, and the yarn. So I thought maybe I'll go into that. So sustainable, one way forward is, start using your selvages, use your old clothes, re-wear them, reduce the amount of water you use or how many times you wash them. That is being sustainable. And also paper. I try to write, since you all are lawyers, you'll write a lot. I always, every whole world is E. Then that e-waste is another thing. But I also write on the reverse side of the paper, and don't love that gorgeous packaging anymore, because that is a tree you're chopping off. So there's a whole world in there. But sustainability, we in India are still better off than the Western nations, let me tell you. But yeah, we can do that.
I'm going to take a quick break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Do stay tuned. Welcome back with us here in Leaders of Tomorrow. Tonight on the show, bringing you the Delhi edition of our Leaders of Tomorrow Hangout, coming to you from campuses across the country. It may be small, but there's a movement where a lot of brands are going sustainable and are talking sustainability.
Yes.
And maybe to you first, but it's open to all three of you. If you can talk about how sustainable brands in India perhaps need to make and are making that differentiator for themselves, because when say 10, 20, 30 brands are saying we are sustainable and this is what we're doing, and that is really the USP of the brand, then how do you make that sort of niche for yourself? Any tips, any advice?
So first of all, I think a couple of thoughts. First, sustainability is actually something that's not yet accomplished in India.
Yes, it's
Yes.
true.
So step
Soil is
one-
7
Yes.
years to get
Yeah.
that recycled.
I mean, yes. So we should not say, and like ethically as brands, right? We can't go and say that we are sustainable brands. The
Not
least we
100%
can-
sustainable?
Yes.
Yeah.
The least as a step forward we can say is that we are conscious.
Yeah.
And that's step one to become aware, because this apparel overall as an industry genuinely generates a lot of waste. So as an organization, you have to build a roadmap towards sustainability and being more environmentally conscious. And that's what we need to do. So you, as a brand, at least we take a philosophy to not stamp it out and call it sustainable. There is not even a single brand in the country which is sustainable at this point in time. But as an organization, we are taking steps towards sustainability, starting from, as she said, though we manufacture in mass, but the extra wastage, which is called katran in Hindi, is actually reused, upcycled for either bags or handed over to NGOs where they can work with them. So that's step one for us. The other aspects on sustainability, what we do is the vendors and the manufacturers that we work with, we encourage them to also be sustainable, because it's a mindset shift that everyone needs to take. It's not just one organization, but across organizations.
Sure.
And then there is a lot more to be done. But I think the third part, which as a brand, which we're constantly trying to encourage, is making consumers a lot more responsible towards being conscious about the environment. The younger generation, I know you are all sitting here, right? The habit of buying quickly and then discarding in one wear, rather than doing that, it's important to really think about what you're buying, how long will it last. Look at cost per wear as your metric to wear, not how many times or like it is for one party. So, upcycling, reusing the clothes, that's the future of fashion. And I think the request and requirement also needs to start from the consumer for the brands to actually push themselves more towards this.
Okay, fantastic. Yes?
I would like to add something
Sure,
here.
go ahead.
I completely agree with her when it comes to the point that the responsibility doesn't only lie on the fashion industry and the brands.
Yeah.
It also hugely lies on the consumer, and I feel that the biggest problem that a consumer faces today is just basically information, and awareness.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at our place, which is at Wilderby, where we have this program, and everywhere there is this image consulting, which is we tell people how to dress up. Now, in that section, there is an entire system where we tell them how to reuse one piece of clothing in various ways and for different occasions. And that is something that people need to understand, that a consumer needs to stop buying and spending money on fast fashion brands constantly, and be aware of brands which are actually doing good work. And that's where you shop from. So this is what I feel needs to change.
Okay, absolutely.
Can I add one
Yes, please,
point?
Professor.
Well, as grown up a learner, because there are 3 words, I would like to use Hindi here.
Yeah.
It's called parivesh, then ganvesh, and then paridhan. Parivesh was, we always used to dress up to suit the environmental conditions. Ganvesh, of course, it was decided by the workplace, and accordingly we started wearing that. But paridhan is something which was someone's idea bestowed on us, that you should buy this, you will look good, you will look beautiful, etc. So we forgot environment there, that our own environment, I'm talking of my own body. Ganvesh, of course, I was just dressing up for the occasion. But when it became paridhan, and then for every occasion I'm told that for this you should wear this. Oh, this is a trend, then you should wear this.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to fashion, but when we say sustainable, we always aim at development, and when it comes to development, you want to leave something, and for that you don't want to crack, and then you give a very good name, sustainable development.
Go ahead, yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Kavana Rao. I'm in my 3rd year of law school. As all our panelists said about reusing our clothes and being mindful about the kind of clothes we buy, and I think as a generation, we also are very mindful about, we try to buy clothes that we can rewear and pair and match it up with other kind of clothes also. But when we try to buy new clothes, and as individually, I try to shift to sustainable brands and conscious brands. But as students, especially now studying in law school, I realized that most of these brands are not easy on the pocket. They are pretty expensive. So if we want to shift towards sustainable clothing on a whole, not only just on an individual effort, what is the way forward when it comes to managing?
And that was going to be my question to Lakshmi.
Yes.
You raised that point, and I wanted to say, for those who want to shift, it's not cheap.
The choices are very limited,
Very limited.
and there is
I
a
agree.
lot of overcharge in the name of sustainability.
Yes. Yes.
Which is also not right, I feel.
So what is your advice, Rina? Lakshmi, go ahead.
So, I have been trying to, I realized this a long time back. I'm from an army background. We get posted to the remotest areas when it comes to postings, and we, in those areas, you really don't get too much, so you have to rely on the local artisans and textiles, and I have a whole range of saris which have been bought, and honestly that is one way of supporting our local artisans, and most of it are actually sustainable, and you can, one is that you can support them there. The second thing that I've noticed, being from an industry which is the fashion industry, I realized that there is just too many things to buy. And what I started doing is that I had my basics in order. That is where I put in money and I shop, because a tank top can only last that much and a pair of trousers can only last that much. But what I did for sustainability is to buy pieces which I could hand over to my daughter even 10 to 15 years later or 20 years later. So I have started being very conscious about the brands that I invest in. It could be expensive, yes, but those are pieces which will last. Like my mother's sari has been passed on to me. And why can't we invest in things mindfully? And those can be, we invest in so many things. We invest in, and if you actually look at the amount of money you spend on fast fashion brands, and you, kind of take it together and you invest in this one piece of jacket, you will get more compliments on the jacket than you will get on those fast fashion clothing that you wear.
Sure. So this question then to Rina and Ayushi, from the industry perspective and from the industry point of view, what should your advice perhaps to your peers, etc., about how this can be made more affordable, and how do you see the industry changing?
So I think the first step is, and before even we go there, from a brand perspective, your question is very, very valid, that there is a premium or a surcharge associated with sustainability. The reality of the matter is that the premium is actually really low. It's not very, very high yet. But because there are very limited brands trying to operate in that space, and more smaller brands as opposed to the larger ones, Therefore, the cost to the consumers is high. And from a brand perspective, I think it has to eventually start matching the demand and the supply. We as a brand can genuinely move towards sustainability heavily with just an incremental effort towards sustainability and providing sustainable garments. We in fact work with recycled polyesters, we work with a lot more sustainable cotton and a set of fabrics which are very relevant in nature. But we've also not seen the demand. So it's nice to start seeing a little bit of a change. I think India as a country needs to go through the journey. And you would also see the larger mass market brands also starting to introduce elements of consciousness, I would say, into their collection. So maybe that's where you start from.
Okay.
And as over time, as demand increases, I think brands will become more tuned towards it because it's also a commercial call for the brands.
Sure. And if I can just add one more question to that, Rina, before you answer this one. What are some of the examples of sustainability across the globe? Some of the best practices that you think we can use here?
Of course, we don't have that. Used clothing, hand-me-downs. Guys,
As an industry.
Yeah,
It's called thrifting here.
Yeah. So hand-me-downs is not a bad idea. And but you see here, there is a catch-22. I remember sitting with the UN team for an Environment Day, and I'm like, hello, so much for your speeches. There is no alternative to plastic for our packing. So when we ship the clothes, or you buy them, like a shirt, what do you put it in? A plastic bag? The manufacturer will further give it to a fabricator, to another guy. That guy can't have any money in it or any costing, which will allow him the room to pay extra, both in terms of weight and money, for that alternative. So they need to create those alternatives. Now, glass is wonderful, but the alternatives are still limited and not all out there. And yes, I agree with you, they cost more. So that matters. And you want to be trendy and you don't want to pay more.
Out of time on tonight's show. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our contact details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.